6 Sinister Home Alone Tales Exposed, unexplained horror that will haunt your every door lock, the kind of suburb where laughter echoes from every home, where the sun sets behind manicured lawns. This was Maplewood Heights. But tonight, everything felt different. Lisa, a single mother in her late 30s, left the echo of her children's sleepy breaths behind as she prepared for her long night shift at the hospital. She checked the locks on the front door twice, running her fingers along the metal, reassuring herself of their sturdiness. The air was thick, unsettling. It wrapped around her like a cold shroud. Lisa slid into a moment of stillness, the silence broken only by the low hum of the streetlights. Just as she settled down, her phone buzzed. With a jolt, she glanced at the screen. ICU. Chills shot down her spine. Was it a prank? Maybe a wrong number? She dismissed it, swiping the notification away, but the uneasiness snaked back in. Then came the rustling, soft yet distinct, oozing through the dark hallways of her home. She gripped a kitchen knife, its blade glinting dully under the glow of the fridge light. Each heartbeat echoed louder than the last as she tiptoed into the living room. An old photo album from her late mother caught her eye, its dust-covered corners whispering tales long forgotten. With trembling hands, she opened the album. Each page revealed scratched-out stories, folklore spun in shaky handwriting about neighbors once trusted that turned monstrous creeping beasts wearing familiar faces, hungry for the naivete of their community. Horror clawed at her gut as she read, realizing the descriptions recalled moments she had lived. The neighbors, with their too wide smiles and prying eyes, now loomed in her mind like an ominous fog. Suddenly, she noticed a shadow outside. A figure lingered just beyond the soft circle of porch light. Heart racing, she rushed to the window, but it was gone, just like that. The air turned thick with dread. Every creak of the old house felt like a whisper, an echoing reminder that Maplewood Heights wasn't the safe haven she thought it was. People waved hello, exchanged pleasantries, but now their murmurs turned into conspiratorial whispers. They gathered after dark, conversations halting when she drew near. Trust teetered on the edge of a knife as terror brewed inside her. Was she the only one sensing the shift? Just then, a fierce knock reverberated through the house, rattling the very frame of her sanctuary. The breath caught in her throat as she recalled her mother's warnings. Neighborhood figures got closer once the lights went out. "Let me in, Lisa," a voice whispered, thin and serpentine. With her children asleep above her, Lisa faced the door, the shadows creeping closer, betraying the so-called safety of familiarity. Adrenaline surged within her as she wondered, could she shield Ellie and Jake from whatever lurked beyond this door? Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Her heart raced as she weighed her options, dread pooling inside her. The reality of her once friendly neighborhood twisted into the macabre. Swiftly, the clock ticked closer to midnight, and she recognized the weight of buried secrets pressed upon her. Would the shadows consume them, or could she unravel the truth before it was too late? A nagging voice echoed in her mind, urging her to confront her fears. As cold sweat trickled down her spine, she realized she might just be facing the hometown horrors lurking far too close to home. The chilling whisper slipped beneath the door, curling around Lisa's senses like a noxious vapor. "Let me in, Lisa." Her mind raced. Who was it? The voice felt familiar, yet it twisted her stomach with fear. Without thinking, she took a step back. The distance offered her a false sense of safety as she held the knife tightly, the handle pressing against her palm like a reminder of her purpose. The shadows in the house seemed to swell, pulling the darkness closer, and Lisa felt an overwhelming urge to scream, to call for help, but who could she trust? She thought of Ellie and Jake sleeping peacefully upstairs, blissfully unaware of the night's sinister undercurrents. Her first instinct was to run to them, to scoop them up and escape. But where would they go? The streets weren't safe after dark. And the neighbors hadn't she just read about them, the monsters hiding behind friendly faces? "Let me in, Lisa," the voice persisted, a low hiss that sliced right through her resolve. It sounded like her mother, but tinged with something darker, something wrong. Her breath caught in her throat as she felt corners of her mind unravel. She wasn't alone. A heaviness hung in the air like the taste of copper, the promise of violence lurking just beyond the door. With each passing second, the question gnawed at her: should she open it? What would happen if she did? She moved back toward the front door, the wood seemed oddly warped, watchful. Lisa peered through the peephole but saw nothing, just inky blackness staring back. The knocking started again, this time a furious hammering. "I know you're in there, Lisa. Open up." Panic pushed her mind into overdrive. Was this a neighbor? A friend? That question blurred with guilt. The final fracture of her sanity felt painfully real, as memories of laughter and community faded with each desperate thud. And then, silence. A chilling realization swept over her. The world outside had grown eerily quiet. Lisa strained to hear even the faintest sound, but nothing came. The air felt electric, charged with an incomprehensible weight. Had everyone abandoned their homes? Were they watching? Her teeth clenched as she clutched the knife harder, feeling its cold steel offer a momentary comfort. Suddenly, the faintest scrape sounded from the back. Her heart lurched. Someone was there. With trembling legs, Lisa tiptoed towards the kitchen, the knife guiding her through the shadows. Each step echoed against the vintage tile, sending ripples of dread through her whole being. She crept to the back door, its old hinges groaning as she inched closer. Just as she reached for the knob, the scraping grew louder, more desperate. It sounded like nails against wood. The sound slithered up her spine, and she fought a wave of nausea. What if she was right? What if one of the neighbors had become one of them? The door rattled violently. "Let me in. It's not safe out here." A voice called. Lisa squinted into the darkness beyond the small kitchen window, praying to see something familiar. But all she saw was a moving shape, void of any human quality. She froze, realizing that every instinct screamed for her to stay away, yet her body was painfully drawn. The knife felt heavy in her grip. The clock ticked louder, each second stretching into eternity. Then, just behind her, another knock echoed, this time softer, trickling through the air like a thief weaving between shadows. "Lisa," a voice breathed, more tender, with urgency and need, filled with the sharpest ache of longing. Terror seized her heart again. Could it be Ellie or Jake? Did they wake up? She needed to choose. Should she confront the certainty of the darkness ahead, or trust the hopeful voice behind her? As the chaos swirled, Lisa took a deep breath, poised between hope and horror. Which one do I open? The air thickened with anticipation, holding its breath as secrets begged to escape, and lurking shadows waited patiently. What was hiding in the depths of the night? The moment hung, heavy with dread. Lisa's pulse quickened, and she felt her fingers tingle around the knife's hilt. Each breath she took felt like a betrayal, awakening the looming terror behind her. "Lisa," the voice whispered again, close but shadowy, invoking memories of lullabies and warm embraces. But beneath that softness lay an unsettling chill, something deeply unnatural. She turned slowly, heart thumping, half expecting to see her children standing wide-eyed in the doorway. But just as she pivoted, the back door creaked again, the insistent scratch now escalating to a haunting crescendo. Whoever was out there, they were desperate. "Let me in. I'm begging you." It sounded like her mom again, but now it echoed through her mind, bending her will with guilt and fear. How could she betray someone who had been her protector, even if this voice felt so wrong? "No!" she yelled, suddenly finding courage. "I'm not opening that door." The silence that followed was thick. It was suffocating, oppressive, making the walls around her feel heavier. Just as she prepared to ignore the growing dread and retreat to the safety of her children's room, the soft voice behind her urged again, "Please, Lisa, it's me, I need you." Instinct screamed at her to fight the darkness pressing in. She turned back to face the kitchen door. Shadows danced wildly, and within the faint dim light, she thought she saw a face, but it shifted too quickly. "Who is it?" she demanded, trying to keep her voice steady, but the tremor betrayed her unease. "Your mother," came the muted answer from the back door. But Lisa's mind was on fire with confusion. A chill raced down her spine. She couldn't even recognize it as her mother's voice anymore. At that moment, the kitchen window rattled, a branch scraping viciously against the glass. Her heart hammered in her chest as she spun around. The shape outside slammed against the frame, demanding entrance, desperate and loud. "Lisa! Don't trust that voice." A new voice echoed from the darkness behind the kitchen window, frantic and clear. Who was that? Someone who knew the truth. The answer danced just out of reach, clawing at her sanity, and Lisa felt the knife slip slightly in her grip. Her breathing turned shallow. Straining to listen, she felt the urge to flee. But from where? The doors were all barricaded with her fear, and every exit seemed blocked. With her heart racing and sweat trickling down her back, she knew she had to make a choice. The back door continued to batter against her will, and now the pleading voice was accompanied by threats that cut deeper than the knife in her grip. "You'll regret it if you don't open the door. I'll show you who I really am." Her head spun, confusion gnawing at her resolve. The children were still upstairs, peaceful in their slumber. She could leave it all, run, but what if leaving them meant leaving them vulnerable to whatever hid within this slice of night? Forcing herself to breathe, she slowly backed away from the door. "I'll call the police," she shouted defiantly, though doubt crept beneath her skin. "Call for help? What can they do, Lisa? They won't save you." Another sense of dread seeped into her bones, transforming her fear into pure terror. Just then, a shattering crash erupted from the front of the house. Glass flew everywhere, and Lisa screamed, dropping the knife, the sound ringing in her ears. She had to act fast. She turned towards the sound, heart racing. Unseen eyes were watching. With nowhere left to run, she could hardly think. Panic clawed at her throat. What awaited her around her home? What shape of horror was breaking in? Just as she reached for the knife again, the front door swung wide open, its creaking echoing like a death knell. Lisa, her heart stopped, and she felt the world tilt as she stood paralyzed, questioning everything she thought she knew. The darkness pulsed with life. What was coming for her? In the looming chaos, the walls closed in, shadows shattering her perception of safety. She needed a solution fast, but the answers were cloaked in sinister lies. "Help me." The faint whispers lingered, pulling her deeper into the unknown. What awaited on the other side? Lisa stood frozen, the doorway gaping like a mouth ready to swallow her whole. Shadows flickered as if aware of her fear, reaching out with cold fingers. The voice called again, now soaked in deeper anguish. "Please, it's so cold. I can't stay out here, I need you." The warmth of familiarity slipped further from her grasp. A shiver trickled down her spine. She crouched low, gripping the knife tightly, scanning the dark shape at the doorway. How could it be her mother? She remembered laughing around the dinner table, the touch of a soothing hand on her forehead when she was sick, the bright smile that never judged. "Mom?" she whispered, a desperate hope creeping into her voice. "Open the door, Lisa. It's been so long, I've missed you." The shadow gestured, and a gust of cold air filled the kitchen, sending icy tendrils wrapping around her ankles. But her mother would never beg like this. Lisa felt the knot in her stomach tighten, squeezing out any hope she had left. She inched backward, disoriented, feeling along the counters for anything she could use. The window rattled again, like teeth chattering in fright. "Lisa. Please." That new voice interjected, persistent and urgent, "It's not her. You have to." But the shadow in the doorway had begun to shift. It moved and twisted, rising taller, more predatory. Lisa swallowed hard, raising the knife again, her breath coming in ragged bursts. That shape wasn't just her mom anymore. It was something else, something that knew her. "Mom?" she called out, trembling. In that moment, whatever it was hesitated. A brief flicker of recognition crossed that warped face. "It's so dark, please." But just as she thought it might transform back, that face split into a menacing grin. It became a mirage of every nightmare she had ever had, one that fed off her fear. The pleading turned malicious, and Lisa stumbled back. "No!" she screamed, finally convinced that this wasn't her mother. She bolted toward the front of the house, the metallic taste of fear coating her tongue. Something crashed as she crossed the threshold into the living room, the front door still wide, ominous, inviting danger in. She broke into a sprint, claws of panic gripping her thoughts. The children. They were still upstairs, sleeping, blissfully unaware of the horror creeping through the house. She rushed towards the staircase, every step echoing like a drumbeat in the silence. But then, the shadows behind her grew heavier. The floorboards groaned under her weight as a harsh whisper crawled forth. "You can't run from me, Lisa. I know where you are. I know your every secret." Her heart thundered louder than her footsteps. She reached the stairs, fingers brushing against the railing, just as something cold brushed against her shoulder. She spun around, breath caught. The voice had taken form. A figure emerged from the darkness, an explosion of dread washing over her. Its eyes glowed with a hollow hunger, and deep inside, Lisa's instinct screamed that it sought something more than just entry. It wanted her very essence. "Help! Someone help me!" she screamed up the staircase. But the echoes swallowed her cries, the house a labyrinth of terror. "Mommy?" A small voice rang out from above. A chilling jolt hit Lisa. The sound of her children. "Stay where you are!" she shouted back, her pulse racing. "Don't come down." The taunting figure advanced, a distorted parody of family affection. "Oh, don't worry about them, sweetheart. They'll be just fine for now." Lisa hesitated at the foot of the stairs, every decision ripping at her insides. Would they come running to her rescue, or would the monster lurking pull them into the abyss? The shadows pressed closer, whispering her name. Her mind raced through memories, thoughts of safety, the comforting arms of family. But they felt farther away than ever now, eroded by this nightmare. With a surge of determination, she darted towards the kitchen, desperate for any escape. The clock on the wall ticked ominously, counting down each precious second. What would she choose? What path would lead to survival? As she rounded the corner, a crack of thunder erupted outside, lighting up the room with blinding brightness, revealing the full form of the intruder for just a moment. In that instant, as her fear peaked, she realized it wasn't just a malicious shade but a harbinger of greater darkness. What if more awaited her if she chose wrong? With that thought, terror twisted in her gut, and she backed into the pantry. The door creaked just a little too loudly as she slid inside, leaving the terrifying visage behind her. But it wasn't over yet. From the depths of the darkness, the whispers grew louder, and now they carried a name. Lisa, what was it truly after? The pantry felt suffocating, the scent of stale flour mixing with the metallic tang of her fear. Lisa pressed her back against the cool wall, the knife trembling in her grip. Her breathing was a frantic rhythm, and each sound outside the door made her heart skip a beat. The whispers crawled under her skin. Lisa, so many secrets. What did it want from her? She forced her mind to focus. The children were still upstairs, alive, but how much longer could she keep this thing at bay? The shadows outside expanded and twisted, flitting past the cracks beneath the door. She could feel their weight, heavy and suffocating, like a storm ready to unleash hell. "Mommy?" The small voice called again, vulnerable and innocent. It sliced through the darkness, filling Lisa with a mix of dread and fierce determination. "Please, Mommy, I'm scared. Don't come down," she shouted back, her throat raw. "Stay upstairs." But she could almost feel the child's confusion, as if the little one didn't understand the stakes. The shadows whispered cruelly, and in her mind, Lisa knew she had only minutes left. If she didn't act, she might lose them both. Somehow. Suddenly, the pantry door began to rattle, the dim light barely illuminating the shape of it threatening to burst open. Fear made her heart race as she pushed herself deeper into the corner, straining to make herself small. The voice from the darkness shifted again, taunting her. "Let me in, sweet girl, I only want to see you. You've been so lonely, no. You're not real." Lisa screamed, desperation leaking into her words. "You're not my mother." Fingers clawed at the door in a merciless scratching rhythm, hungry to break through. The cold from outside seeped in, engulfing Lisa and tightening around her throat. She could feel herself suffocating, panic twisting into a tight knot in her chest. Then, as if it had heard her plea, the scratching abruptly stopped. Silence. The kind that eroded hope, leaving an unsettling dread in its place. "Open the door, love." It was softer now, almost soothing. "My daughters need me, they didn't understand. But I do. I know how to help you." A chill swept through the pantry. Lisa dropped her knife, the clatter echoing far too loud for her liking. She brought trembling hands to her ears, trying to block out the betrayal that whispered sweetly through the keyhole. It felt like her mother, yet it wasn't. "Open the door and I promise, they'll be safe." That promise echoed deep inside her, stirring the very essence of her being. How could she believe it? "What happened to you?" The words spilled from her lips before she could stop them, tinged with a hint of regret and longing. The voice outside softened. "I'm trapped, Lisa. Just like you. All I need is to come back to take care of my girls." She had to think. Could this thing truly be her mother? Or was it the monster from her nightmares, playing on her emotions? "What should I do?" she whispered to herself, the weight of her choices pressing down. Then a wall of shadows surged in, filling the small pantry with a choking darkness that enveloped her. Lisa felt them curling around her like snakes, squeezing tighter, making her gasp for breath. "Oh no, no, no!" she cried, struggling against it, but the shadows were not just a physical presence, they were memories, fears, regrets. They clung to her, dragging her down into despair. Just then, the light flickered from her phone in her pocket, cutting through some of the darkness. With a surge of strength, she pulled herself back together. "I want to let you take me." With newfound resolve, she turned to push against the pantry door. "I'm coming out." She didn't know what awaited her on the other side, but she knew one thing for sure, she had to protect her children at all costs. With a deep breath, she flung the door wide open. What awaited her? Was it salvation or a deeper nightmare? The truth echoed in the corners of her mind. "Lisa," the whisper hissed, hungry for her answer. The door burst open with a harsh creak, flooding the pantry with a flickering light that danced upon the walls. Lisa stood frozen, heart pounding in her chest. The living room before her was eerily quiet, cloaked in shadows that seemed to swell and pulse as if alive. "Mommy?" The small voice echoed again, fear wrapped tightly around every syllable. It came from the stairs, high above, drifting down like a whisper of hope and horror. "Stay there!" she yelled, stepping cautiously out of the pantry. Her instincts screamed at her to retreat, to hide back among the jars and void of light. But there was no time for indecision. The whispers carried on the air, tantalizing and sinister. "Will you let me in, my dear?" It wasn't her mother's voice. It was a seductive melody of the dark, woven with loose threads of memory and longing. Lisa took a staggering breath, pressing her hands against the cool wall as if grounding herself to reality. She had a choice to make, and it felt as if the very shadows were watching, waiting for her to falter. A feeling of being hunted gripped her. "Where are you?" she called out, hoping for an answer. It came not with words but an angered hiss, "Flood the silence." Lisa backed away instinctively, her eyes scanning every corner of the room. If the whispers were right, and if this horror were connected to the entity outside, what had it done to her mother? Upstairs, the child's soft whimper sliced through her thoughts, an innocent sound that burrowed into her heart. In that moment, the fear of losing her children outweighed everything else. "I'm coming!" she shouted, forcing her legs to move toward the staircase, but as she took a step, the air shifted. "Lisa!" The voice snapped, angry now, reverberating with clarity. The shadows seemed to sharpen, sharp eyes within the dark glared at her. "You think you can run? You think they'll be safe from me?" Her breath hitched, and she stumbled. I'm not afraid of you." But the certainty of her words wavered as she felt the creeping cold slithering down her spine. A horrific gust of air rushed past her. Overhead, a light flickered then died. Shadows swallowed the room. The walls pressed in as if trying to suffocate her. She glanced back, terrified of what she might see. And then she saw it, an outline just beyond the threshold, too tall and too wide to be human. It stood still, a massive silhouette blending into the darkness, a monstrous parody of her mother. "Come closer, Lisa," it crooned, playful with malevolence. Her instincts ignited. Lisa ran. Each footfall echoed, conviction forcing her legs to move faster. The landing felt miles away, but she needed to reach her daughter. She had to protect her. With renewed energy, she bounded up the stairs, the floor creaking with every step as if it were protesting her ascent. Shadows twisted and turned in the corners of her vision, but she didn't dare look back. When she reached the top, her heart plummeted. The door to her daughter's room stood ajar, ominously waiting. "Help mommy," the child's voice trembled, this time more insistent, but laced with panic. Lisa reached for the doorknob, an overwhelming sense of dread washing over her. Before she could grasp it, a shadow lunged at her from behind, icy fingers curling around her ankle, dragging her towards the dark abyss. "Let go!" she screamed, struggling. With one final desperate pull, she kicked free, flinging herself into her daughter's room. The door slammed shut behind her, sealing out the darkness for now. The air inside was thick, heavy with the scent of childhood innocence. Her daughter stood wide-eyed in the corner, small and fragile against the wall. "Mommy, please, it's coming." The whispers were louder now, pooling outside, threatening to break through. Reflecting her daughter's fear, Lisa's voice caught in her throat. "What is it? What's coming?" But as she turned slowly to look, she could feel the shadows gathering, preparing for an assault. "Mommy, I can see it." Bile rose in her throat as the shadows shifted against the door. They were hungry, desperate. With a forceful shove, something began to push against the barrier, cracking it, throwing it into question. Was this it? The moment where courage and despair collided? What terror waited just beyond the door, clawing to get in? "Don't open it," Lisa warned, breathless, her heart teetering on the edge of hope and dread. "Mommy, it wants you." A chill ran down her spine. They were not alone anymore. A deafening thud reverberated through the door, sending tremors through the floor beneath them. Lisa's heart raced, pounding against her ribs like a frantic bird trying to escape a cage. As she clutched her daughter, small and terrified, Lisa's mind raced through desperate alternatives: a window, the closet, anywhere but here. "Don't look at it," she whispered urgently, her voice trembling. "Whatever you do, don't look." The shadow pushed against the door again, causing the wood to splinter dangerously. Lisa pressed her back against the wall. Her breath was rapid, quick bursts of air, each one more frantic than the last. Her daughter's wide eyes glued to her, reflecting every flicker of uncertainty. "Mommy, it's getting in." The girl whimpered, her small hands trembling. The door creaked, the hinges screaming as the shadow pressed harder, shifting ominously, beckoning with fingers that seemed to stretch and elongate, reaching for them. "Close your eyes," Lisa yelled, grabbing her daughter's shoulders, forcing her petite frame down into a crouch. You have to trust me." The room seemed to be shrinking, the air growing heavier and more suffocating with each passing second. Shadows writhed and danced in the corners, curling menacingly while the thumping grew more erratic. It was almost furious now, wild, uncontrollable, a desperate creature fighting to break free. Time slipped away. Seconds turned into minutes as Lisa held her breath, feeling the weight of relentless darkness closing in. The whispers surged in a cacophony, a chorus of deceitful voices intertwining with one another. "Let us in, Lisa, we're family, we just want to play." "No!" she shouted, tearing her focus away from the beckoning voice. It was a dirty trick to peel apart her resolve, to manipulate her fears. Suddenly, the shadows halted momentarily, a stillness that felt like a taut string about to snap. In that breath of silence, the door quivered ominously, then flung open with violence. Light flooded the room from the hallway, revealing an unimaginable grotesque silhouette. It filled the space with its oversized form, twisting grotesquely into shapes that defied reality. Lisa recoiled, her instincts screaming at her to run, but her feet remained planted on the floor, immobile with fear. "Shadow Mom," the entity murmured, its voice serpent-like, curling around the name she held close. "I want to show you something." Lisa's panic surged. Her daughter whimpered beside her, eyes squeezed shut, body shaking. "No, please. You're not real. You can't have us. Why deny what you seek?" The shape hissed softly, almost soothingly. The air thickened as the creature's voice wrapped around Lisa like an oppressive blanket. "You're lonely, Lisa. You have unfinished business, you can be with her again." Her stomach churned, a terrifying realization dawning within her. It knew the pain she carried, the guilt that gnawed at her thoughts when she dared to remember. This twisted being, echoing the outline of her mother, was an amalgamation of everything broken in her heart. "Stay away!" she screamed, shoving her daughter behind her, but the force of the shadow surged forward, the distance closing much too fast. In that moment, a flicker of white light burst in the corner of the room, illuminating a small, half-burned candle on a shelf. It flickered in rebellion, fighting against the shadows that threatened to snuff it out. "Mommy!" the girl cried, eyes wide with terror. "The candle! It's lighting up!" The light pulsed, a heartbeat within the darkness. As it swelled, Lisa felt an unexpected rush of hope, but the shadows responded violently, recoiling, shrieking as if the light burned them. "Remember!" the shape growled, clawed hands scrambling into the recesses of the room, pushing against the light. "Don't let it in." Lisa desperately pulled her daughter closer, the warmth of their connection igniting a flicker of courage. "Mommy, I still see it." Her daughter's voice carried an unbearable weight as Lisa turned her gaze back to the door. Panic attacked every nerve. "We have to fight," she yelled, her voice rising above the chaos. As if in answer, the candle flared, casting an eerie glow. The shadows grew restless, a momentary hesitation rippling through its form. What truth lay within the shadows? And could Lisa rally enough strength to face what waited beyond? Behind her, another surge of whispers fluttered against her. There's no escape. With the candle flickering behind her like a beacon, she stood her ground. "It can't take us." But the darkness was relentless, and it only let out a low, echoed roar, promising despair. "Mommy, what do we do?" In that instant, the full weight of her choice crashed down upon her. Would they face the truth, or allow the shadows to claim them for good? Dirges of whispers tangled in her ears as she fought to maintain her grip on reality. And then, as the shadows lunged again, she breathed deep, ready for a confrontation that would change everything. What lingering secrets would surface in the battlefield of light versus dark? The shadows lunged, a ragged tide of darkness crashing against the feeble light cast by the flickering candle. Lisa could feel the chill, the breath of something ancient and malevolent rolling off it like a thick fog. Her heart pounded harder as she held her daughter close, willing herself to not collapse under the weight of fear. "Look away, honey, just look away." Her voice trembled, but she kept her eyes fixed on the creature. It writhed and twisted, expanding, contracting, memory and nightmare blending in its grotesque form. The candle's flame struggled, dancing erratically, casting frantic shadows upon the walls, revealing snapshots of horror etched in the dark. "Mommy, it wants to come in," said the girl, her voice a whisper of despair. With a hasty shove, Lisa backed further into the corner, instinctively moving her daughter to shield her. "We won T, let it," she said, forcing determination into her voice. The candle sputtered again, a firefly caught in a tempest, illuminating their little sanctuary against the engulfing tide. "Come home, Lisa," the shadow hissed, its voice now filled with something sinister, almost seductive. "You've missed so much. Embrace the darkness. It won't hurt you, not if you stop fighting. Don't listen to it. It's lying." Lisa exclaimed, but doubt crept in, unwelcome and insidious. With every pulse of the candlelight, echoes of her past flared up, memories she had buried deep, laughter, warmth, the comforting grip of hands she once knew. Each flash ignited a mixture of nostalgia and anguish, the past clawing its way to the forefront of her mind. The whispers swirled around her like leaves in a whirlwind. She could almost make out individual voices, her mother's, her friends, long-lost bonds she had thought severed by time and the relentless grind of guilt. "You never said goodbye, Lisa," they murmured, and the darkness intensified, smelling of despair. "Get away." She felt her voice rising to an unnatural pitch as she thrust her arm out, directing her fury at the spectral figure. "You aren't real. You're just a memory, a lie." But the shadow twisted, pulling itself together, its face becoming almost recognizable, mirroring the features she so painfully remembered. It grinned lopsided, wrong, a reflection of everything she had lost. "You don't have to be alone. Come to me. I can give you what you want." "No!" she screamed, her voice shaking. She could feel the ground beneath them shifting, the very walls seeming to pulse with the grotesque rhythm of the creature's presence. The candle flared up again, illuminating an even larger piece of the shadow, making it appear less like a being and more like a suffocating cloud. "Mommy!" her daughter cried, clutching her tight. "It's south, too close." Lisa turned toward the light. The candle shone defiantly, though its wax dwindled dangerously low. It promised hope but asked for strength. With a deep breath, Lisa grabbed her daughter's little hand firmly. "We can do this together," she murmured, though her own fear gnawed at her resolve. "Trust me," she said, closing her eyes for a moment to focus, to drown out the deceitful whispers still calling to her. "On three, we're going to push back, okay?" The girl nodded, and though the terror was still evident on her face, there was a flicker of determination behind those big eyes, shared between a mother and child. The darkness pressed harder, but now they had a single thread of light, an anchor holding them steady. 1, 2, 3. At that count, they stepped forward, not away from the shadow, but into the almost blinding luminescence of the candlelight. The shadows recoiled, the creature's form glitching in and out, a dance of rage and fear battling against the strength of their unity. Shadows shrieked, the sound like fingernails scraping glass. Suddenly, a burst of brightness erupted as the candle flared one last time, igniting their combined courage. In that instant, Lisa felt the pull of something deep and ethereal inside her, a truth begging to be set free. But just as quickly, the shadows surged back, hungry and furious, clamping down like a vice. "You cannot escape!" it roared, a deafening crash filling the air. "You are mine." "Not today!" Lisa cried, feeling an inexplicable force rising within her, a dark power clamoring to protect her child, defying the shadows that sought to consume them. Would she grasp this newfound strength, or would the shadows snuff it out before hope could take root? As the darkness threatened to pull her under, she glimpsed a shadowy silhouette emerging from the depths, one she thought she knew, and it was calling her name. Lisa. The lights flickered, the air electric with unbearable tension. What had she awakened with that desperate push against the void? What lay beyond the barrier of light? In a world where echoes of the unnameable inconsistently matched reality, Lisa had one choice left: confront the truth or become part of the shadow forever. As the candle flickered a heartbeat in the dark, the resolution loomed: what truths would surface when they fought back? The candle flickered again, almost dimming entirely as the darkness swelled aggressively. Lisa's heart raced, pounding like a trapped animal inside her chest. She could feel the weight of the shadows pressing in, every whisper biting at her sanity, beckoning her to surrender. "Mommy, I'm scared." Her daughter's voice pierced through the haze of terror, pulling Lisa back from the edge of despair. "I know, baby, but we can't let it win." Lisa steadied herself, trying to believe her words as much as she hoped her daughter would. But the shadows hissed, the sound oozing like sludge, filling the room with a sickening sensation of dread. "You think you're brave, Lisa? You've always run. And yet, here you are, buried in the past. Where does courage come from when you're already lost?" The voice warped and twisted, haunting her. Fear gripped her throat, tightening as the creature's form morphed into familiar, haunting shapes: a friend, a lover, lost connections that echoed with betrayal. "Let her go!" Lisa shouted, tightening her grip on her child's hand, the warmth bringing her a modicum of strength. But the shadow shifted again, its grotesque face contorting, stretching into shapes she never wanted to see again. "I can help you remember, Lisa. All those memories you've hidden away, I can let you relive them." The very thought made her skin crawl. What cost would reliving those moments steeped in grief have? Memories felt like anchors, pulling her down into the depths of despair. "No. I would rather fight." "Ah, but you're fighting against yourself." The creature's laughter reverberated through the room like thunder, drowning her in dread. "You crave the past. I can show you how to hold on." "No." The thought flared up inside her. A fire was kindling against the dark. "I will not surrender. You don't control me." With that declaration, something in Lisa snapped. She pulled her daughter closer, their breaths synchronized, mingling in the small, flickering warmth of the candlelight. Heart pounding in fierce determination, she called upon the strength hidden deep within, a force layered with the love for her daughter and everything she fought to protect. "Together!" she shouted, breaking through the suffocating shroud surrounding them. The shadow shrieked, its voice echoing, ricocheting off the walls. Lisa stepped forward, her heart racing, and thrust against the darkness. The candle blazed to life, sending shockwaves through the room, illuminating every corner with vibrant light. But in that moment of clarity, something caught her eye: a flicker of movement just beyond the suffocating shadow. Forms began to emerge from the depths, faces she had thought were nothing more than figments of her imagination. "Lisa," a whisper floated toward her. It was soft, yet layered with urgency. "Help us." "Who are you?" Lisa yelled, instinctively tightening her hold on her daughter. "What do you want from me?" The shadows writhed violently, the familiar faces twisting into expressions of despair, reaching out toward her. "You need to accept us. Only by embracing your past can you find the true light." A swell of panic enveloped her. She was being pulled in two directions: echoes of her past begging for acknowledgement and the present threatening to swallow her whole. "Mommy!" her daughter whimpered, eyes wide with fear. With each heartbeat, Lisa felt the candle's glow flicker, threatening to extinguish completely. The haunting faces grew clearer, closer, as if pleading for her to reach out. To remember. But the darkness lunged again, claws grasping for her, furious and ravenous. It shook the very foundations of her sanctuary. You cannot run from what you are. You are not a hero, you are a coward. Stop. No more lies. Fueled by a fierce protective instinct, Lisa screamed, lunging forward. The room vibrated as she faced the darkness head-on, ready to confront her deepest fears one last time. What other horrors lay buried within her mind, and how far was she willing to go to confront them? The shadows surged against her, the vivid faces growing more pronounced. The candle flickered, a fragile flame teetering on the edge. Would it survive, or would they be lost to the darkness forever? Outside the flickering light, something stirred, clawing its way to the surface. Who else would rise from the shadows, drawn to the hope she fought for? As the shadows echoed her name one final time, Lisa faced the approaching dread, her heart hammering not just for survival, but for a reckoning she knew was coming. Lisa, the abyss called her deep into a nightmare. What awaited her there? Lisa's grip tightened around her daughter's hand as darkness enveloped them. Agony and hope swirled within her, merging with a fierce resolve. The candle flickered, casting a brief illumination over the terrifying shapes encircling them, but Lisa felt their power receding with each teetering pulse. Voices melded together, intertwined, some familiar, others still painfully foreign. Embrace us, Lisa. Remember the love memories erupted forth, vivid and invasive, laughter at birthday parties, hugs after school, the touch of a warm hand during difficult nights. Each whisper carried a mix of pleasure and pain, urging her to surrender. Yet she knew deep down that surrendering meant losing everything she fought to protect. No. She clutched her daughter tighter, forcing herself to face the shadows that masked the forms of loved ones lost. You don't control me. Her voice rang out, a battle cry against the chaos invading their safe space. You are not my memories, you are the shadows of this fear. You can't have us. An anguished scream erupted from the depths of darkness. Lisa didn't flinch, instead, her heart quickened with determination. She and her daughter stepped forward, the flickering candlelight boldly lighting their path. Suddenly, the shadows recoiled, shrieking against the advancing candle, their twisted faces momentarily retreating from its warm glow. But just as they had gained ground, mingling confidence turned into doubt as more figures emerged, bewildered, fractured mirrors of the past, reaching out with desperate hands. Reject it, Lisa! Shouted a voice piercing through the cacophony. It was her mother's voice, but it sounded so distorted. You must face the truth. You've forgotten what we lost together. The candle flickered dangerously low. Lisa's heart raced with despair as if time itself were slipping away. I remember. I remember it all. She cried, feeling her determination swelling. The candle became more than a light, it transformed into the embodiment of every memory she held dear. With a defiant shout, she stepped further into the thrumming light. I can carry these memories, but I will not be trapped by them. The shadows shrieked, the sound echoing with rage. You cannot shake this pain. They screamed in fury, long-lost faces becoming grotesque caricatures that danced around her, intent on dragging her down. Mommy! The fresh voice of her daughter snapped her back. Glancing down, she saw courage reflected in her little girl's terrified gaze. We can do this together. Right? The plea filled her heart with the intensity of a mother's love and fierce loyalty. Together, Lisa echoed, and her voice rang out like a cleansing bell. We will face the darkness together. The candle flared brightly in response, amplifying their strength, illuminating the once murked memories around them. Shadows twisted and shrieked back, collapsing into themselves as the potent light overcame their oppressive force. Mommy! Look! Her daughter pointed toward the window, where a stark brightness spilled through the cracks. It's breaking out. We have to go. Lisa felt a surge of determination course through her veins. They stumbled toward the radiance, hearts pounding in time with the flickering flame, shadows thrashing wildly behind them. The darkness fought tooth and nail, but Lisa pressed forward with the understanding that true strength lay in their unity. Bursting through the final barrier of darkened desire, the void fell away, a tempest collapsing under the weight of their combined light. Faces within the crowd of shadows cried out in anguish, but the love that fueled Lisa and her daughter shielded them from despair like a protective mantle. As the light enveloped them, a warm sensation enveloped her. All fear melted away, replaced by a calm clarity that poured into every crevice of her being. They had risen from the depths of the shadows, hand in hand, illuminated by the resilience of familial bonds. The struggle shifted. No longer was it simply about the fight against shadows but recognizing that love transcends fear, that memories even painful ones act as anchors. They could share remembrance without drowning in heartache. Amidst the brilliant light, the forms of loved ones long gone appeared, no longer grotesque but vibrant. Lisa felt her mother's essence surge through her with warmth rather than bitterness. It was a celebration, not a torment. Lisa, her mother's voice echoed gently, filled with warmth and understanding now. You will find peace in remembering, but not by being shackled to the past. Carry us with love, nourish the light. In that moment, Lisa knew. She was not alone. They were not simply victims of circumstance or remnants of memory, they were the embodiment of love and hope. Together, they stepped into the light, filled with the soft hues of acceptance, healing, and endless potential. Lisa held her daughter tightly, heart achingly full despite everything they had faced. Maplewood Heights, once a place of unease, transformed itself in her vision a community of resilience, of love, where laughter would echo and fears would fade. As they emerged from the shadows, the air lightened, and with it, the realization swept over them: fear would always exist, shadows would always lurk. But in confronting it together, they would rise above, their light forever illuminating the path forward. And with that light leading the way, they ventured into the new dawn together, arm in arm, ready to face whatever lay ahead. Now that you've journeyed with us through this wild narrative, make sure to subscribe immediately to catch our next exclusive stories that will keep you on the edge of your seat. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and show your support for these spine-tingling tales. Let's grow this community. Don't wait even one more second. Flood the comments section below with your reactions and theories about this conclusion. We want to hear from you. And finally, instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion and start their own journey with us. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel with these simple actions.